So yeah, my talk is breaking services down with the Mad Titan. For those of you who don't know, his real name's Thanos, Destroyer of Worlds. But one thing he doesn't really like is bleeding resources dry, draining resources, at least in the MCU universe. And so what I'm going to kind of mix in is, well, he's going to help me break down a service. And the service in particular is one from a client of ours where they had this deletion service. It was a one button does all sort of thing. And it's probably started off quite small, eventually grew and grew and grew, tons of methods, all within one method that ran once, and eventually the page just stopped loading because it was doing too many things. So yeah, we're going to try to break that down, I guess, follow that through, and then what I ended up doing to solve that problem. So, like I said, probably started off nice and small, something like this, where it would just do a couple things, delete it, get rid of it, and move along. But the problem with some of this stuff is that it can become obviously quite large, as I was saying before. It can become untenable, and eventually what was once an okay plan is really no longer. So you can see it growing, and then you get tons of things, and you end up sort of just chucking more and more because it's so easy. You just think, oh, I just need to delete something, and this is that method, and so it belongs in there. But no, that's not the best thing. Oh, I forgot to mention, I've got some pretty good amateur PowerPoint skills in here. Damn it! No! Okay, so you can't really hear that, so I'll just skip that. So I've got new contact lenses in, so I can't really see. But, so going back to our method before, so I hit this. Yeah. You can see there's actually quite a few similarities in there, which you can start to identify. So you've got user data, we've got birthday data, user points. These are all things that are related. So you might be able to sort of extract them into something that makes a bit more sense when you're approaching this sort of deletion. Something that's a bit more readable when you've got this massive long method. If you want to change something that's related to the user data, then you might want to visit a user service, something like that. So in part by doing that, rather than it being just one sort of method, one button, click all, delete everything, you can now provide your users with an option as to what they actually want to delete. So a lot of this was actually used in a sort of testing kind of style. So the client would go in, would build this whole sort of program out, test all the different functionalities, show their customer what everything looked like, and then to clear it down and then give it to them so they could then go on and use it in a real production environment. But sometimes you don't want to, there's just things you don't need to do. There's process steps that you don't need to go through. So this now will sort of break it down into deleting only the things that you really want to delete. So this is kind of what some of those things would kind of go into, I suppose. It just really is that one short method now. It's tidier. It's in a intention sort of revealing named class in space. And I think Thanos would be pretty happy about this as well. Yeah. So now that we have this idea of how we're going to break down all of our other different bits into sort of the other services, we'll need to create a sort of a base of operations, one place to hit that will then read in the data and say, okay, well, what am I doing here? What am I supposed to be deleting? Who am I supposed to be calling? In order to sort of take care of this, Thanos has a few friends called the Black Order, and one of them is a guy called Cole Obsidian. And so he looks like that. He's pretty cool. He's really good at destroying things. Pretty strong guy. So he's going to be our base. He's going to do a lot of the deletion for us. And what we can do is move that separate service class that we had before, that sort of user class, and we can move it under his command. So we can bring it in here. And essentially, eventually, when we go through, I'll step forward in a moment, but he'll take in a service, and then he'll execute that service for us. And so from this perspective, what would our our view and our controller look like now that we've given the user the option to make these decisions on their own. So you might have a form, and it might be a series of checkboxes, and so they'll send through in an array, just this list of services. So you click on the ones that you want, and it provides you with the name of the service that you're going to be utilizing, I suppose. You send that to your controller, and it will run in the background as a sidekick service. So this was actually something I failed to mention before, should have done. But the whole process of not just separating these things out into a manageable or readable service to avoid those page loads that we were sort of encountering was to run it as a background job. Because it doesn't need to happen instantaneously. They don't need the response immediately. It just needs to work. And then you can provide them with a notification afterwards if that's what they really need. So we'll set up a sidekick service that will run, all of these services will run within. We'll call that from our controller, and then Call Obsidian will go off and do the dirty work and execute all of these services. We won't have to worry about page request failures anymore because we're not actually expecting anything to come back. So, like I was saying, makes things a bit more manageable and readable. And of course, Thanos would be much happier now that his resources aren't being drained. And that's everything. Yeah. Thanks for listening.